too. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Louise McCormick. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of the Memories of Plymouth. This is our third year running, and it happens to be today is the last time we will be taping for 2019. But don't worry, we are already scheduled for folks in 2020, so if you're interested, let us know. As the member of the Historical Society, this is one of several initiatives that we've been working on, but this is pretty special. We talk about community when we interview folks, and some of them have played different roles. Some of them are townies. I'm not sure I'm a townie, but I was born here. I went to school here. I've worked here. And some of you have socialized here. But today we have a special guest. She probably gets I think she does. She probably gets the award for traveling the farthest in order to be interviewed. So thank you, Patsy. I'm going to introduce you to the audience now. It's long. Okay. Patricia, Patsy, Conway, Neads. Am I correct?
You forgot Louise.
Where does that go?
Patricia Louise, remember?
Oh my gosh, you may be the longest name I've ever.
Your name, Louise.
That's correct. That is correct. Yeah. Oh, wow. But we do want to thank you. I'm so happy that you were going to be in the area, and we had an opportunity to get you to come in and share some of the stories and memories that you've had about Plymouth. We should probably start with some identifying information. There might be somebody in the audience today that doesn't know you.
Okay.
So we're going to say, again, one more time, tell me your full name.
It's Patricia Louise Conway, Neads.
Okay. And Patsy is okay?
Patsy's what I've been called, yes.
All right. And tell us a little bit about yourself. Were you born in Plymouth?
Yes, I was born in Plymouth. My parents were Andrew Conway and Rose Carter Conway, and he was known as Ike Conway. But I was named after my maternal grandmother, Louise Carter, and they were from Ashland. Addie Louise Carter and Almond Carter from Ashland.
What did Mom and Dad do?
My mother was a waitress at the Pemmy for several years.
We need to share with our audience. Yeah. It was the Pemmy Jawasset Hotel. And was it number 2 or was it number 3?
It was on Highland Street.
Number 3.
Is that 3?
3.
Yes, yeah. Yep, she was there for several years, and my dad was baggage master at the railroad for several years.
Wow. So we're talking about the Boston and Maine Railroad. Wow.
Yeah.
Can we talk about them for a little bit?
Oh, sure.
Only because I'm excited to hear Pemmy Jawasset 3. It was eventually bought by the university, but from 1909 until probably the early 50s, it was up on the hill at the top of Highland Street.
Yeah.
Do we have any idea how many people were able to stay?
No, I just remember I went there when my mother was waitressing. I would go in the back door and eat the leftover ice cream. But there was a family that came up there every year, and they had a child. And somehow I was friends with her, so I got to eat in the dining room with them, for 2 or 3 years. Wow. And I thought I was doing good using my napkin like I was taught, and I found out I was using the tablecloth. I don't think I went back after that, I'm not sure. But anyway, I remember all the people that worked there, the O'Donnells and Shirley Pearson and Steve, and who else was there? The Ayers that lived on the corner there with their dog Smokey that greeted us every day.
So Ayers would have been what we know as Ayers Insurance Company? They lived on the corner.
Probably related somehow.
Corner of Langdon and Pleasant Street.
Right.
Wow.
Right, yeah. And then the Breakies came in, and I only remember that because their son was graduated with me, Robert Breakey. And they came when he was in 7th grade, so.
The first 2 hotels, Pemmy Jawasset 1 and 2, both had fires. But this one did as well, but I guess it was a small fire.
I don't remember
All
anything
right.
about.
The stories
Okay.
are that some people didn't have to. They weren't disposed. They could stay there during the fire. So it must have been
Okay.
smell. I wish I knew the dates. I wish I knew the dates.
I remember the puppet shows. Oh, they had magnificent puppet shows in that front door in the lobby on the left. They went on, I guess, for the guest children, but
Entertainment.
I went to quite a few of them. Oh, they were magical for a child.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you recall looking down at that time? There was an open area of land, and that's where we ice skated.
Oh, Russell Field, went there all the time. Oh, yes. My friend Florence Robinson lived up over the hill. What house did we live in? Was it Draper or Maynard?
Well, I lived in Draper.
Okay, and I lived in Draper, and Florence lived in Maynard.
Okay.
And we would ice skate and go up to her house for hot chocolate, and I had to go buy her her dad's hunting dogs, and I was scared to death of them. And Florence says, "Just walk in my footprints; they won't bother you."
Wow.
Oh, they bothered me. They came out and bit me one day. I had to go down over the hill to Dr. Bowles and get taken care of.
You're coming up with names that so many people are going to be able to remember.
Oh,
Dr.
dear.
Bowles. Oh my goodness gracious, that's
I
really fun.
love the Bowles. Yeah, I have a good story about them.
All right, do we wait or do we go
Sure. Oh, you can wait.
now? All right, we were talking about Mom and Dad, but we just got
Yes.
off. We may
Oh.
never get through this interview.
Okay, I'll hurry. I'll try not to remember so much.
No. And you're married.
Oh, yes. Mr. Nice Guy over there.
Well, I think we need
61 years. yeah.
61 years. I can.
And we haven't missed a year. We've come up every year.
From where do you live now?
Well, I live in Greenville, South Carolina now, but we were in Tampa for 54 years before that.
Wow. So this is quite a weather change for you a little
Oh,
bit?
we don't even think about it, do we, honey?
Wow.
Yeah, whatever it is, we'll take it. We're just glad we're here.
Why do you come back home?
I guess because I loved it so much as a kid. Some things, you know, you look back on and you think, oh boy, that was the best of time. I knew when I was growing up how special Plymouth was. I loved the people. I loved the layout of the town, walking down over there and looking out over the mountains and the common. And I don't know, it's just something. I said, honey, can't we go home? Yeah, okay, we'll go home. And after we started the first few years, we just haven't missed. And the kids loved it, and yeah.
How many children do you have?
3.
3 children.
Yeah, a boy and 2 daughters.
And where are they located?
The son and the daughter are in Tampa, and the other daughter is in Greenville.
All right, so you're coming home. Thank you for coming home. But this
Yeah.
isn't the only reason why you came home this time to be interviewed for Plymouth Memories, is it?
Well, I'm glad they have our class reunion, you know, while I'm here. Some years I've missed it, but yeah, we had our class reunion yesterday. And I tried to get some of those classmates, come on and join me in the, you know, but
Do you think they would have fit between the two
get
of
any,
us?
well, at least, or to come at a later date, but I didn't have any takers.
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
We'll try to be persuasive.
We'll work on them.
We'll work on them and see what happens. Yeah, that's great. Let's talk, if we can, about schooling. You went
Okay.
to school here, public school,
Yeah.
and you were located, the schools, elementary and our, I'm going to say junior high school and high school, were all together at that time.
Right.
Okay. And talk about it, if you would. What were your elementary experiences like? Who were some of the
loved school
teachers?
from day one. With I think I had Mrs. Seavey in kindergarten, or it could have been first grade, but that was the beginning, and I adored her. And then I think Mrs. Durkee was second grade. She let us call her Miss Turkey at Thanksgiving. And she also wrote plays to keep us, you know, she wanted us to be able to speak out. And so I had one line in a play, "It's time to stir the soup." Anybody can say that, right? Oh, I couldn't remember if it was steer or stir. So, of course, I said, "It's time to steer the soup." And I was laughed to scorn, but then my friend Robert wet his pants in reading group, so they forgot all about me.
I'm not going to ask you any questions about Robert, or I'm going to get into trouble.
You know him.
No, we're
I
not going
love
to share
him
that.
dearly, yes.
Oh, that's neat.
But anyway,
So-
liked her, and then on to third grade. I'm not sure, Miss Hoyt in fourth grade that taught us penmanship. Ooh. And Mr. Hatt in fifth grade, and then in sixth, I think it was Mr. Merrill and Mrs. Wright, and I think Anna Bean Brown was in seventh and eighth grade, and Miss Spitzner and Dr. Bagley, who I had again in college.
Now, Miss Spitzner is a name that I can connect to.
Really?
You had her when?
Seventh and eighth grade.
Okay, and I had her in fifth grade.
In fifth.
So she decided
Okay.
to move down.
Yeah.
And you did have kindergarten.
Yes. Yes, pretty sure I had kindergarten.
I mean, it took decades for the state of New Hampshire to come up with universal kindergarten
Okay.
everywhere. So we were very fortunate to
Yeah.
have that, I think, here.
Mm.
What was junior high like?
Oh, I loved junior high. We had reading every day after. I kept notebooks. I was secretary in, I think, seventh grade, and I have, all the minutes that we took, and the teacher read, a chapter of a book, and it really got me interested in reading, and we had a lot of music. Mrs. Wright would blow her pitch pipe and give us our pitches, and one day she said, "Patsy, would you like to give the boys and girls their..." Well, I thought I'd arrived. I got to go up there, and so she let me do it every day after that. And I loved it because we had so much music
That's great.
back then.
That's great.
And the reading. So yeah, I loved junior. I loved school. And I loved high school. Ooh, I really enjoyed high school with the
and
plays
why-
and the sports
Here we go.
and all the good teachers.
I was going to ask you, were you involved in extracurriculars?
Yes,
So
yeah,
we
I
had
was
plays.
in mainly basketball, and what else do we play? Of course, we had badminton, and I was in the plays every year. I was in the I think they called them one-act plays back then. Yeah.
Was there a teacher that you enjoyed in high school that you connected with?
Probably like everybody else, Mrs. Frazier. I loved it because I loved the way she dressed. She was just with her
Professional?
longs. Oh yes, with her pins and her nice earrings, and yeah, that caught my eye at first. But then I liked grammar, and she stressed that grammar. And then I liked reading. So then she went on to the reading and the literature. And poetry, I love poetry to this day because of her.
That's great.
So, but I liked all my teachers. We had some good ones, and the coaches, liked all the coaches, and yeah, it was good 4 years.
And then you were here after high school still, because how many years were you in Plymouth before you moved away?
22.
Okay.
Yeah, I went 2 years to Plymouth. It was Plymouth State back then, and I used to tell my kids I did so good with English because of Mrs. Frazier. When I took my test to go to college, I got excused from freshman English, and I got to take advanced composition with Dr. Bagley, and that was a plus.
Why was he special?
Oh my goodness, he just had. You could just tell he was just in his element, enjoying what he was doing, and it came across to me, I guess. And he had a delightful sense of humor. And I don't know, I guess he was a good teacher.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I wonder how many years he was. Well, I won't ask you that question. It's too hard to go with
Yeah,
years.
I wouldn't know.
No, I wouldn't either.
Okay,
I'm taking that
needs
one
to know
backwards. Think about a little bit of the town, if you can, especially with businesses. Did you work at all on the main street? Were you? Was there a place that you enjoyed going on the main
I
street?
worked for people on the main street. My first job was babysitting for Sherb Graves. He ran the theater. And he had a girl, Galen, and I babysat for him. And I enjoyed that. I was young, and I enjoyed it, but he paid me with passes to the movies. I really would have liked the money, because he didn't know it, but some of us probably shouldn't tell this either, but, there was a side door into
I remember the
Yes.
side door.
And when the ushers weren't looking, or Mr. Graves wandering around looking at us, somebody would open the door and let us in. But anyway, yeah, that was my first job. And then my second job was taking care of, can I say his name? Sure, Stevie Rand.
Steve, get
Yes,
ready.
yes. I had him, I don't know how his mother picked me, but, oh, she was just the kindest thing. My mother had just died that January, and that spring, she asked me if I'd like to come over, and, it was at the lake.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't at their home. It was over on the lake where I could go swimming every day and water skiing and take care of that nice young boy.
And how old would Steve have been?
He would have
at that
been
time?
maybe 8 or 9, maybe. And I made $10, and somebody said an hour, and I said, no, a week. $10 a week. And then I went back a second year, so I must have liked it, and I got $12 that year.
Wow.
But
Wow.
that was a good job. And then I think the only other job I had, I was a waitress at Lake Talton.
In Warren Winter?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
What
we
was
go
that
by
like?
there every year. Oh, it was great. I made a ton of money waitressing, and at night we had what we called a canteen across the street where all the help went. And there was a guy there that was doing music. He was the activities director for the people that were staying there, but then he came over and entertained us. And I used to sit on the piano bench and harmonize with him, and his name was Neil Sedaka.
You're kidding.
No. Mm-mm. My kid said, do you have pictures, Mother? And I said, no, I didn't get any pictures. But anyway, and then the next year he came out with his first big song, But anyway, yeah, that was my last job before I guess I went to Florida and got married.
How old would Neil Sedaka have been at that time?
He's about my age, I think, so probably 18 or 19 or 17, round in there, I'm guessing.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
hobnobbing with the celebrities
Oh,
here.
Man, touch me.
You better believe it. Oh my goodness gracious.
I think that's the only one.
If I said to you, what childhood memory sticks out? Childhood memory sticks out.
In Plymouth. I used to go downtown a lot.
Yep.
From Pleasant Street, and Thelma that you interviewed, I saw her a few years ago, and she said, I saw you downtown one day, Patsy, when you were 5 years old. And I said, who are you with? And I said, I'm by myself. She said, well, what are you doing? And I said, shopping. And she said, well, you're going home with me. And she took me home. So here I was downtown in Plymouth. How safe was that? And as I grew older, I would start down around by the movie theater, and I would go into Rice's Cafe and say hello to, I think it was Helen and Millie Rice in there. And
I don't know where that is. Rice's
right
Cafe.
next to the Plymouth Record, I think it's Peppercorn or something now.
Wow.
But it was
great.
on this side, yeah. They had, was, and the two sisters were in there, and I used to like to talk to them. And then of course, I think Fausti's was always there. And then I'd go to Harry Green's and Jenny's and try to get an ice cream cone for 5 cents. And I couldn't decide if I wanted chocolate or vanilla or strawberry. I mean, those were hard choices. And he would yell at me, oh my goodness, and Jenny would come over and kind of rescue me. But anyway, and then I'd work my way up. I don't know, I think Adams's was first on the corner, and then Clay's was there, and a Mr. Tier used to stand outside his store.
Yes.
Not sure who he was, but he was...
Virginia Tier, daughter, married to Minicello that we interviewed a little
Really?
while ago. I can make connections.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
This is
Peter's wife or David?
I think it's Peters.
Peter,
David lives
the one
out.
that's
Peters
here?
in town.
Oh, okay. I'm going to try to see him. I have a picture for him.
Neat.
But yeah, I remember talking with him, and then I'd work my way up and to the Blakes and to
Good memories.
the
Good
oh
memories.
one of my best childhood memories is the band concerts.
Thank you.
Because I lived next door to Harold Sherbin, and Viney Sherbin, his wife, was a waitress with my mother at the Pemmy, and so I knew them, and he would let me go get up there and lead that little band.
Wow.
just because he knew me and he knew I liked music, I guess. And there was a lady named Jessie Kolachek who entertained all us kids by dancing around the common.
So she was down
Every
below.
band concert, she was on the grass where everybody was sitting, and she would dance. Oh my goodness, we loved it. And then if we had a little money, we would go over to Volpe's and get the old creamsicle with the, get whatever you want, but that's what I remember getting.
Now you're at Harry Green's. If we look across the street, that was the Plymouth Inn.
Yeah, used to walk up that street all the time. I had to come down and go up. I went to Mrs. Merrill for my piano lessons.
Yes, I've heard of Mrs. Merrill.
Yes,
oh my
she'd
gosh.
drive around in her Cadillac with her hair up, and ooh, she was special.
Wow.
As kids
And of
liked
course
to see
that
her.
little the steps that go all the way up, that's no longer there.
Not there anymore, or the inn, yeah.
That's
I had a recital with her, my first recital, and it was always in her home, and of course I had all my classmates that were taking lessons from her too. And I was so gifted, I went right in the front door and right out the back. I couldn't take it. I never. So that was the end of my piano career.
Thank you, Mrs. Merrill.
Yeah. No, and do you remember Mr. Spalding?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Dayton Spalding?
No.
Okay.
I don't think.
I
He was the organist at the Congo Church.
No.
Okay.
My Mr. Spalding was college, and I worked with him.
Oh, okay.
So
He gave lessons too downtown, somewhere in the building next to York's. I can remember going up there with a few of my friends, but most people took from Mrs. Merrill.
I wonder if that's where they call the music hall. There was a music
Oh,
hall. And
maybe
did you go
so.
upstairs?
Yes. It was just creaky and dark, and yeah.
Interesting. Were you here when President Eisenhower came through town?
No, I mean, it was, when that was,
1955, I'm sorry.
oh, I must have been here. I graduated that year. Wonder where I was. What month was that?
Getting a little picky here, aren't you? It was summertime. I can do that. It was.
Summer?
It's nice and
Okay.
warm. It was not cold. We wouldn't have had jackets on. And Sherm Adams was a good friend of his. Well, he worked alongside him until he
Okay.
got himself into trouble because he took a gift
Yeah.
and therefore he resigned. He resigned.
Was it the Vicuna Coat? or
Coat,
something?
very
Yeah,
good,
I
very
remember
good.
that name.
And then he was. I think they were on their way up to go up to Loon Mountain, which now is
Okay.
an infamous skiing area.
Okay.
And they were probably golfing at the time, but good friends.
Norris Cotton spoke at our graduation. Was he a congressman?
He was. Was he a senator?
Norris, he was Senator Norris Cotton. He
And we have
spoke.
the Norris Cotton Cancer Center in the state now as
Okay.
well after him. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting. Celebrities that we had in Plymouth way back when.
And another memory I have is Christmas time. I came downtown a lot because it was so pretty and decorated, but when you walk down over the hill, they played Christmas carols over the loudspeaker.
And where was the
And it
loudspeaker
was-
coming from?
Probably from the band concert, from the, what they call that?
The Common, in the
yeah.
Common, the band.
Where they had the band
stage,
concert.
sure.
It was, anyway, that's where I imagine it. But it was just amazing to hear those beautiful carols,
Special.
going all over the town. It was, don't think they'd do that today.
They do events at Christmas time. It's pretty neat. We still have people. It's part of why I think we call Plymouth a great community. They still have events that bring people into the main street, and that's important. It's really important
Yeah.
to get them to walk the main street.
Yeah.
There's a lot of main streets, as we see, they're going different ways. You see less and less stores on the main street because of the box stores.
Right.
So I think Plymouth has made really a concerted effort to keep people downtown. Parking is still an issue, a tad an
Right.
issue, but to walk the main street, you'll end up knowing somebody, somebody,
Yeah.
and you say hi to them. That's pretty cool. You said once, we were chatting away, and you said that your family, relatives, had a connection to one of the fairs.
Yes, my mother's sister was Louise, and she married Peasley. And the Peasleys ran the fair for, I don't know, maybe some of the relatives still do today, but
What fair was it?
the Sandwich
Sandwich Fair.
Yes, my
Sandwich
mother
Fair.
was born in Sandwich.
Okay.
Yeah, so Yeah, they had it for years.
Mm-hmm. And did you ever go to the Plymouth Fair when it
Oh
existed?
my goodness, that was our life when we were kids. That was, and one of my best friends was Barbara Courier, and she lived on Fairground Roads. So at fair time, I would spend the night with her, and we would just, run over there and get in on that. Oh, it was just magic to go to the fair.
What was something that was special when you walked inside? What do you enjoy the most when you walk through?
Well, it wasn't the 4-H thing, sorry. We would just look for, I don't know, the food. We would go for the food, and I can't even remember if, I guess there was some kind of little rides, but
Oh yeah.
just walking around and seeing who you could see, and these cheapy little prizes you would get for something. My friend Robert, that same one that
We're not going to
had
talk
that
about.
yes. We went back one year, and he said, let's go to the fair, and I said, okay. Oh, it was so sad. And why did we do this? But when you were a child and it was in its heyday, it was great.
That's neat.
Yeah.
That is neat. All right. Was there an event, was there a birthday, a wedding, I guess it could even be a funeral, that connected with you when you lived here? A special birthday, special wedding that you might have been invited to?
A wedding or a birthday?
A friend's birthday? Did you have birthday parties? I should ask
I
that.
didn't, but
Okay.
Florence, my good friend Florence Robinson, had them, and she's got them on tape, and now she's gone, and I don't know if I'll ever see them, but I would love to see those old movies. I might be able to get them from her daughter, but I do remember that. Mainly, I remember going down to the railroad station with my dad. I would go down there and he'd let me use his little stamp that had A.J. Conway on it. And he had to meet the paper train on Sunday mornings at 5 a.m. So my brothers didn't care about going, but I did, because we could stop at the Maple Diner. You remember the Maple
On the corner?
Diner?
No, I don't, but
It's-
the pictures I can.
Yes,
Okay.
it's up from, it's where the bank is now.
Right on the
And we
corner.
would stop there and get, coffee or hot chocolate.
Special.
And then, Oh, I haven't told you about my 4 older brothers, have I?
No, it's in my head now, but I want to go back. When you went down to what would you help your father do?
I think he must have had to clean the waiting room, because I can remember wiping the big old benches off and hoping I'd find a nickel or a dime. I do remember that. But I just went to be with him, is what.
I was
And we
just
didn't
gonna
have a
say.
car, we always walked. Yeah,
As
and I
many.
can just remember winter time, it was pretty chilly. But we got to stop at that diner, so it made it all worthwhile.
That's a special time with
Oh,
your
yeah.
dad. That's really
It
neat.
was.
Yeah. You had how many siblings?
I had 4 older brothers whose aim in life was to kill me. Yes, I'm just telling you like it was. No, they were just mean, and I just accepted it. I thought all brothers were like that,
Between you and the oldest brother, who was?
Andy was the oldest, and then Dennis, and then Ronald, and then Russell.
Between the oldest and the youngest, how many years?
My mother had 8 children in 9 years. The first one died, and then she had Andy that same year. And then the next year she had twin girls that died.
Wow.
And then she had Dennis, and then she had Ronald, and then Russell, and then me. So Andy was born in 28, and I was born in 37.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So when you were born, we were still probably in the recovery of economic times. 30s,
Yeah.
early 30s? Interesting. So what were they like, 4 brothers and you?
Oh, my. They pummeled me with frozen snowballs in the winter.
I'm sorry.
and I begged them, let me get on the front of the toboggan, going. We had that nice hill.
We did.
In back of, this one was in back of Carl Nelson's house. I think Ozzie LaFleur, it was kind of like on his property, and they built a great big jump, you know.
Oh, wow.
And so we'd go down over there, woohoo. So one day they said, okay, get up front. So I got up front, and the four of them got in back of me, and we went over the big bump, and they rolled off. Yeah. So that's one thing. And then my brother Dennis got a bike, boy's bike, you know, and I begged him, let me ride. No, don't be touching my bike. One year he said, okay, you want to go up to, you remember Lionel's store?
I do.
Yeah. Want to go up to Lionel's store and get a cold drink? Well, of course. So anyway, we rode up there, got the drink, talked with people, came back. I'm on the, you know, the crossbar, and he jumped off at the top of Ward Hill, and I went down by myself and crashed into Dr. Learned's stone wall. I think of it every time I go by there. It didn't hurt me, just went over, and, you know. So you want to know how I got even with him? Say no. Say no. Well, anyway, my dad, you know, worked for the Boston and Maine. He got paid on Thursdays, and so our treat was a box of jelly donuts, a half a dozen, 6 in the box, and whoever got home first got to have that extra one. And we would hot-foot at home every day to read the funnies to see if Joe Palooka won his fight or not. And, you know, that was our big thing as kids. But anyway, after school, I started running like crazy. So I got home first, and I got to eat that extra donut. And then, I don't know what made me do it. I guess they were so mean to me. Yeah, I did. I sucked most of the jelly out of the other 4.
I can't believe this is on TV.
Oh, sorry.
I can't. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I told them years later, and they said, you did what? I said, did you notice your donuts were a little dry? I mean, you've heard that story, haven't you, Johnny? But anyway, that's what I did.
You
so.
still want to be with her, Ken? I'm sorry, that was bad.
Get his answer on tape. Oh, but anyway. But I loved them all dearly. Saw them every year when I went to Florida because my brother Andy was there. He worked with him. That's how I happened to go to Florida in the first. And my dad worked for the railroad, so I could ride free.
Wow.
So that's how I got to Florida. But I loved them all. They just, and they're all gone now. Russell was the last one. He died last year. So, and they were mean, but just.
It's brothers.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I accepted it. You know.
I'm going to go backwards a little bit.
Okay.
Did you have a friend, a really good friend, when you were in elementary school, junior high school?
Oh, man. I did. I had a lot of friends. I had Florence Robinson was one of my dearest friends, and Nat Doggett was another one. We rode our bikes to Campton and to Ashland, and we were together a lot. Carol Brazo was one of my good friends. Sandra Clay was another good friend. I see her as soon as we come into Plymouth. We go see Sandra and Shirley. I had a lot of good friends, and Robert Olmsted was, you know, one of my dearest friends. Who else? Well, anybody I went to school with.
That's
you
neat.
know, I had a lot of good friends.
Do you still keep in touch? You've said yes to a few
Well,
people?
most of them are gone.
Oh.
Mine all be gone. Yeah, they are. Florence is gone, and Nat's gone, and yes, except for Sandra. Robert's gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then Robert, his father was the doctor.
Oh my, yes. Oh, Dr. Olmsted, he delivered all of us. And one time Robert said, do you remember my dog? And I said, of course I remember your dog. And he said, well, when the war started, he went in the Navy. And he didn't come home till the war was over. And so when he came home, Robert and his brother JP started begging for a dog. And his dad said, okay, we'll find a dog, but I've got to build my practice up and make some money, and we'll get a dog. So they found a dog, but they didn't buy it. They found it, and it was $35. Wow. And that night, there was a knock on the door, and it was my dad. saying, Dr. Olmsted, we're glad you made it through the war, and I've owed you this money on one of the kids. I assume it was me since I was the last. And he gave him $35. And that's why Robert's dog was named Ike.
Oh my
Named
gosh.
him after my father.
That's neat.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah,
I never
that is
knew
neat.
that till Robert told me that story, you know, years later.
I know that Mr. Olmsted, Dr. Olmsted, and my dad would travel the train back and forth from Plymouth to Boston during the war. That's how, I'm sure he was our doctor
Wow.
all the way through.
Yeah.
And also was told a story, I'm sorry I can't remember who, some people couldn't pay at that time. And so they brought, and he would say, give me some of your crop, you know, your vegetables,
Wow.
whatever comes
Yeah.
in. Yeah. Yeah, he was a special doctor,
Yeah,
as
he
all of them
was.
were, but since
Yeah.
he was our doctor, he was truly special.
Yeah,
Never
he
forget him.
was.
Never forget him.
Dr. Bowles, my dad went to him. My dad had a bad back, and he would go to Dr. Bowles for adjustments. And my mother worked for Mrs. Bowles, cleaning her house and wallpapering her house. And of course, their daughter Mary Ann was my age, so I used to spend a lot of time with Mary Ann, and I would just threaten her, if I don't get something to eat, I'm going home. So she would take me downstairs in that three-story thing, and her mother made the most delicious apricot-filled cookies. Oh my. Well, fast forward about 40 years, and I come home one year, and I said, I'm going to look up Dr. Bowles and Laura, and they were at the lake at their home on Big Squam. Anyway, knocked on the door, and she came. Oh, she was so glad to see me and talked with them. And I said, oh, Laura, I said, I remember those cookies you made, and I'd threatened Mary Ann if she didn't take me downstairs. And she said, funny you should mention those. And she went out to the kitchen and came in with a big old plate of those apricot-filled cookies. I couldn't believe it. Is that sweet or what?
Did you ever get the recipe?
No, I should have.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I'm not that great a cook, so there was a reason for that probably.
As you come home every year, do you see changes? Think about when you were here as a child. And what changes have occurred, maybe on the main street, back streets, elsewhere?
I still go in all the stores and chat with people. You know, I go into the style center and talk with those ladies like I knew them, you know, and on. Boy, I don't know. I've come home every year, so it's been kind of gradual, I guess. I know a lot of things have moved out to Tenny Mountain, you know, but boy, I don't know what the biggest change would be.
That might be it. The box stores out on Tenny Mountain,
Yeah,
as we've seen
probably.
over
Yeah.
time. And this year, major changes out there.
Yeah.
We have a very large chain store,
Oh,
Market
boy.
Basket,
Yeah.
going in there.
Yeah.
We have the Common Man that's putting up a market and a gasoline station out there.
Yeah, we've seen it all coming up. Yeah.
But there's some things that never change.
Well, to me, the atmosphere and the feeling of the town is still the same. It's just, oh, and I have to tell about going to see your dad. If I saw him in the window, which he was there a lot, I would go in and I'd introduce myself. I said, I'm Patsy Conway, and I said my folks were Rose and Ike. And he said, I introduced your folks. I remember him saying it. I don't remember any particulars. I surely must have asked him when or where, and I don't remember. But he said he introduced my mother and father.
That's special.
Isn't that
That is special. That's
Yes.
cute. If Dad was in the window, I wonder if he was standing or sitting,
He
because
was sitting.
he still has his drawing. This drawing board is still there. Dad was supposed to be an artist.
Oh.
That's his background, but he was and he was pretty good. We have letters from some celebrities, Norman Rockwell, Disney, etc. He was good. And being the oldest child, two parents unexpectedly dying, Dad was asked to take over the store, and he gave up his life's work to do this.
Wow.
And he enjoyed it, but the drawing board is still there. No one's ever moved it. No one's
Okay.
ever moved it.
Wow. I have to go in and
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah, he should. My brother
How
should
was
probably
he
put a.
related to Harry? We didn't know if his name was Harry Samaha or Harry Breen.
His name was Harry Samaha.
Okay.
His name was Harry Samaha, and he wanted to get into the service. And this comes from his children. I'm really the historian for the family, so I get all these stories and I put them all together. And Harry wanted to get in and felt, well, Samaha, maybe foreign name at that time.
Oh,
they came
sure,
here as
yeah.
immigrants way back when. You can imagine the stories they could tell if they were here today. And so he changed his name to Green, from Harry Samaha to Harry Green.
Legally? Oh.
Very much.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they all have stories,
Yes.
and you want to. That's why we're here today. You want to
Really?
collect those stories. Some are sad, and
for
some are.
sure.
Most of them are happy.
Oh, I'm so delighted you're doing this, to
Well,
have this record.
We need to think about more as we start. I'm collecting stories, written stories. I've got about 100 stories,
Wow.
and it's town in its gown. You don't want to lose the stories either. And some people are more apt to share a story with you, a written story. Short stories, they're only 2 or 3 pages long. But some of the memories that you folks have shared on television have been amazing, You connected one today when you talked about Mrs. Fraser, because I had already interviewed her son, Tom Volpe,
Yes.
and then Clem Simino. And they had, they have
Yeah.
great stories.
Yeah.
And some we can say, oh yeah, I remember that too. I'll say one to you. What was the worst snowstorm that you can remember as a child now, as a child?
I don't know. I loved winter, so if it snowed really bad one time, it didn't bother me. Wintertime, the town people, another reason I love Plymouth, they closed off streets so we could go sliding on them. A lot of times it was Emerson Street, which was a great, but a few times it was Pleasant Street. And you could start up by Maycumbers and go all the way down to where Wilbur and Ronnie Coffey lived down there.
At the very bottom.
Oh my goodness, what a ride. But I don't remember any, I just know we had a ton of snow.
And my memory is we could look outside the window and it was almost, snow was that
Oh,
high.
yeah, we've got pictures. He froze. What did you do? And he was out, he likes a clean car, so he's out washing his car 20 below zero. And I think his feet kind of got stuck to the ground out there. It was so cold, but there was a ton of snow that year.
That's what Plymouth is all about. New
Yeah.
Hampshire's all about. You never
Yeah.
know what's going to happen from one day to the next day. You shared that you had some memories from World War II.
Well, World War II, I was, 45. I was 8 years old when it stopped. But during the war, of course, my mother was a waitress, and she had to wear nylons, wear stockings, and there was no nylon because it went for the parachutes, I think. So I remember her putting on that leg makeup every day to go to work. And then I remember lining up at Volpe's when the bubble gum came in, and we could get one piece of bubble gum for 1 cent, and the line would be down, and that was during the war. I don't know what the holdup was with the bubble gum, but I do remember that. I can remember when Roosevelt died, my parents were sad, and I thought, what's happened? And they said, oh, the president died. Was that in 45 or 46? Well, it was around there, yeah. So,
So you would
I
be
remember
in-
seeing a lot of ration books.
That's just what I was going to ask
Yeah.
you. You're thinking alike.
Yeah,
Rationing books.
yeah, I remember seeing those.
We had some just donated within the last year, and it was interesting to hear the stories about this would be worth so much money for meat, and it told you what you could buy with it.
Right,
And it probably did it for gasoline too, I'm assuming.
probably,
Yes,
yeah.
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 I don't think people, a lot of the younger generation, they don't remember when things were difficult to get at the food store, and you would wait in line, and you would know when the meat man would be coming into town, and they'd be
Right.
cutting the meat for you. Wow.
There was a meat man that came around Plymouth, had a wagon, came around, I can remember that. I wanted to tell you too about, do you remember Henry Reno, the taxi man?
I remember a taxi.
It was across from York's.
Okay.
And of course, we were all big Red Sox fans. You wouldn't be able to get a fare or get him home or go anywhere when a ball game was on, because he was backed up on the corner of Cooper and Hawthorne Street in his taxi listening to the ball game, and he wasn't going to do anything else, only listen to those Red Sox.
Well, it doesn't change when they're winning. It doesn't change.
Another nice memory I have is sitting out on my back porch, and everybody had their radios on when the amateur hour was on, and there was an accordionist named Dick Contino, I think, and he won like 20 weeks or something, and everybody, the people at the open gate, Mrs. Ray down here, who lived next door, I think the Mativias lived there for a while, we all had our radios on, and we are all listening to this to see if this guy would win again.
So Mativias lived in Plymouth.
Yes, Slim and
Then later they lived in
Pauline.
Holderness.
Yes,
They
yeah, I
lived-
used to go over there. I was there the night Bonnie was born.
Wow.
Going over there when the doctor came.
That's
Yeah.
pretty neat. Well, we can talk about doctors. Sometimes you can't talk about a doctor because they had to use a midwife or a relative if we go back far enough.
Okay.
We're lucky we don't have to go back far enough.
Yes.
We're okay
Whoa.
on that one. Yeah, if I said to you walking down the main street and what is there, and that was more difficult when you and I had chatted, what was there then but is no longer here? Is there anything that connects with you at all? A business, probably.
York's Drugstore. Oh, we went there all the time.
Yeah.
Also, another diner we went to in 7th and 8th grade to get purple cows was Edgar's Diner
Sure.
down there near your store.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
We went there a lot, and of course Fausti's was the big hangout.
Big draw.
Oh
It
my,
was.
yes.
What's a purple cow?
A purple cow is just vanilla ice cream with grape soda on it.
Okay.
Yeah, that was.
I must have missed out on that.
Well, you didn't miss much. We thought it was great at the time. I wouldn't touch it now.
So if you went to Fausti's, or let's talk food just for a second. Did you go out to dinner with your family?
No.
Did you go out to lunch or a quick bite with your friends socially?
Oh yes.
All right.
Yeah, we'd go down to York's every day after school and get a sundae. Yes, that's what we did. And then after the ball games, we would go to Fausti's. But York's was where we hung out a lot.
Then we're going to test your memory.
Oh,
No. Hot fudge sundae. How much would it cost then?
seemed like it was, something was 35 cents.
Oh, I went to
That could have
Farley's
been-
for 30.
30? I remember Farley's. McCrillis's before
McCrillis's?
that, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
We'd go there
Oh,
too.
Farley's.
One of my classmates, V.D. Dakin, worked in McCrillis's.
We had a lot of drugstores here over time,
Yeah.
as we did gas
Yeah.
stations.
Geyer's. Remember
Geyer's.
Geyer's was down there. That was quite a few for this little town, wasn't
And
it?
McCrillis's, and then you
Yeah.
had, it was amazing.
And Newberry's was there. We mustn't forget
Oh, we
Newberry's.
can't. That was the go-to
That
store.
was- yeah.
Go-to store. Upstairs, downstairs?
Yeah, and never went downstairs.
Oh, my goodness.
No, we stayed upstairs because the counter was there.
Lunch counter.
Yes, that's mainly where we were, and then we'd do the loop around there, and yeah.
But that had everything for you. It really did. And
was
I
a
think it
great
was a
store.
disappointment when they left. That brought a lot of people into the town to have a department store like that had a little bit of everything. You need that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it had those nice old wooden floors. And
Oh.
it creaked like crazy. Yeah.
Can you remember who was at the lunch counter who might have served you? I'm really putting you on the spot,
No,
so you can
I
pass.
can remember sitting there with Matt Kays
Matt
and
Kays.
talking to him and thanking him for when they put a skating rink across from my house on Cooper Street. I don't know if the Huzzies were living there then, but he's the one that put up the lights so we could skate at night, and I was the one that stayed out there till midnight skating and shut it off every night.
Ken? I'm telling you. Your stories are
Oh,
amazing.
but I just
Yeah.
thought I was so glad to see him in later years, to thank him for that. It meant so much to us as kids, to have that place.
I think we need to thank those people. There was a
Oh,
lot
yes.
of, there were people in town that really, they were needed to do the things that they did to create the community that we have.
Right.
And I heard my husband the other day say to so-and-so, I really want to thank you. After what, 30 years? 30 years for what you did for me and my family. We need to say that a little bit more every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I have one more, I think, and I'm going to say it. I'm losing it. I did that one. All right, let's go to the big one. Time is coming to a close.
Okay.
I want to ask for more stories, but I don't want to forget this story. If you had a group of young folks around here, you can have teenagers if you want to, young adults if you want to. And because you lived in Plymouth and you've experienced life elsewhere, what might you say to these folks? It could be college students, it could be high school students.
Well, to the younger ones, I would say, stop texting and pick up your phone and call your grandparents and talk to them and ask them questions and, you know, get some insight from them and even call your parents too. You know, people like a human voice. This texting is overrated, I guess, because I don't do it. I can say that, but that would be the first thing. Overall, basically, I think we're selfish people. We want our opinion and our say and our way, and I think if we just would bring back the golden rule, you know, treat others as you'd have them treat you.
That's a good one.
It'd be a whole lot easier to live here.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
But
yeah. Other stories that we might have missed but you want to share? You walk down the main street or the back streets, Pleasant Street. You're walking it now. What might you remember?
Up and down those streets. I remember going from 7 Pleasant Street to through Ollie Cole's, you know, on the way to school and hoping that big old fire alarm would ring and meant there was no school and we could, yeah, they used to ring
You're
that
just
if
telling
it
me
was,
you love school and
well, so we could go skating or,
of course.
I'm thinking winter, going through the snow. Also, when we got to the Pemmy, if we had time, we would go underneath that Pemmy, starting at this end and go through there and go all the way up.
Because it did not have a basement?
No, it was no, this was, it had that, I don't know, ribbed.
It was fenced in.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was,
I remember that.
you know, you could walk
No, I
under
remember
there.
that.
Yeah.
And I was a kid when I left that street.
Oh, and you go all the way up there and just sit there and, you know, hope you saw somebody and saw something.
When did you live at 7 Pleasant Street?
We lived there, we lived further up next to Harold Sherbin when I was first born, and then we moved down there. I think I was about 2, maybe 3, so that would have been from 1940 to 45. We bought our house on Cooper Street on 45, so about 5 years. My grandmother lived in the top, in the 3rd floor, and we lived in the rest of it.
And then we're talking this on film because my family lived there as well. We didn't know that. So Grandpa bought the store right after World War II. That sounds exactly right.
Yeah.
And could have bought it from your dad.
No, we didn't own it. We rented.
You rented it?
Oh, yes. I know we didn't own it.
Okay.
We owned the house on Cooper Street, but we just rented there.
I have the deed to the house. I have
Look it
the
up.
deed to the
See
house.
what
And so
happened.
before them, I think there was a doctor there.
Ah.
Not a doctor that I was familiar with, but my brother just gave me the deed a while ago. And that's kind of fun, is it not? When you find out who was on the spot prior to you, that's interesting.
Yeah.
We're having people come to us now at the Historical Society saying, we'd like to see a picture of the house 50 years ago, 100 years ago. We can do that. We can do that. As importantly, who lived here? They're very, very interested on who was there before them. Whether or not they want to take the house today and make it look like it was then, or how large the trees have grown. But I think that's what we're trying to do that on the main street now. Who was here first, second, third, fourth?
Wow.
And we had houses on the main street, we had a hotel on the main street, and of course they're no longer there, but you don't want to lose that information. It's really important. It's really important.
The people that bought our house, you know, on Cooper Street with the Foleys, one of the Foleys, could have been Bob, but I used to babysit them for Coach Foley when I was in college.
John Foley.
Yes.
John Foley.
Yep. Kept,
and they had
kept
4
his kids.
children.
Mm-hmm.
John, Bob,
Had a girl in there somewhere.
Martha. You got to
Martha,
help me a
okay.
little bit. Phew, and Bill.
And
Boy,
Bill,
if I couldn't
okay.
have done that, I'd be in trouble. I'd be in trouble. All right, Cooper Street. No, that's neat. That's neat. Well, I've had, I don't want to shut us off. Yes, I have to.
Is it time?
The clock is telling me it's getting close. But is there anything else you'd like to share? I don't think I had to be here today.
Oh dear.
I could
Oh.
have given you the list and you would have gone on forever.
I was going to tell everybody about this, but I might not till I see it. I'm trying to think. I am just, I know I told you before, but I am so glad you are doing this because I do love this town. I've always been so thankful that I grew up here and not one of the other towns. And talking with some of the kids yesterday at the reunion that had to ride the train every day, you know, from the surrounding towns. And I said, I wished you could have lived here and, you know, been part of that. I guess everybody loves their hometown, but.
But you went home for lunch?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
well,
the
till
big one.
high school, and then we had lunches at school.
Oh, I see. I went home every single day.
Really?
Every single
In
day.
high school?
In high school.
Okay.
I was only down the road.
Okay.
It was less than 5
Yeah,
minutes.
okay.
Less than 5 minutes.
Okay.
And I think, again, that brings up other stories. Those of us that were in the town, we could take advantage of all the things that the town had to offer. If there were events going on, if there was sports for us after school or a band program we wanted
Right.
to, it was a little bit more difficult, and that's been shared through other interviews. They had to go home, a lot of them, because they still were on farmland, and they had chores in the morning and they had chores in the afternoon.
Right.
If they played sports, sometimes they wouldn't get home till it was really, really dark. I never thought of that. I guess I was selfish just thinking everybody else is like me.
And we found out those kids that rode the train had to pay for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Norma said, yeah, I had to take money every month
Wow.
and pay for that train ride.
So the trains went to Rumney, they went to Warren and Wentworth.
Yeah. They started in Wentworth. I think she said Wentworth, and then stopped at Warren and Rumney and Quincy.
Quincy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
and she said about 80 people rode in high school. I didn't think there was that many, but anyway, I was just glad I was born and raised in good old
Plymouth.
Plymouth, New Hampshire.
I
yes.
think that's a good place for us to
Yeah.
stop.
Okay.
I think I would put the stamp on that one.
Okay.
Plymouth was, and I also
It
think
is.
is still
Oh,
is. There's a lot we
Yeah.
can offer our kids that are here. You said something today for me was really poignant. You can look outside and you can see the mountains.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And if you go to the Historical Society and you look outside, and there you have Mount Prospect.
Yeah.
And so many of it have done Rattlesnake, which is a nice 30-minute hike, don't get me wrong. But if you do Prospect, oh my gosh, that 50-minute hike, you just sit there and you wonder.
Yeah.
You just wonder. It's
Yeah.
to be that close to nature.
We used to go Stinson Mountain every year when we'd come home. 'Cause he liked to go up that water tower and, you know, look out. And then it's sad when they took it down. And then he'd come down off of that mountain and jump into that freezing cold water. Yeah.
Ken. I can see the zeros and zeros opening up there. So I'm going to have to say to the audience, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, this is our last episode for 2019, but I promise you we will be back because I already have people that have, I should make them sign their name on this piece of paper, but we've already registered a few people for next year, and we're looking forward to that. This is the pitch that I give all the time. Please continue taking the pictures. So many of us have this wonderful technology today. How many of us are printing them off? How many are saving? And more importantly, are you telling a picture on the back side? All of us have stories where we've seen our moms and our dads, relatives' albums. Do they have albums anymore? And you look and there's no name on the back of it and there's no story associated with that. And someday those papers will be tossed. I'm going through pictures right now, giving them to an uncle. And most of the people we know, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So like the memories, we want to save our memories. Thank you, Patsy, for that. And yet we want to save the pictures too, because they can be passed down. I'm starting to say more and more, wouldn't it be fun if you could hear your mom and dad's voice? I would give anything to hear my parents' voice. anything. One more time. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us today, and we'll see you in the spring of 2020. Thank you.
Oh,
That was great.